Oh, hello. Welcome to the Great Old Ones channel. I Here I talk about gaming in general and a lot of tabletop role-playing subjects in specific. Uh, Tonight, we're going to be talking again more, the last part of the ADDICT document about Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, the first edition, basically the combat initiative rules and stuff. And tonight we'll go over the combat example, and we'll maybe make some explanations and stuff as we go along the way. Sooner or later, I will figure out how to do this fade. Ooh, can't hear me for some reason. Where is my mic settings? Audio. Realtek audio. Mic is picking up. My mic is running. Check, check, check. Is it any better? Check, check, check. Mic check. Sounds good. Hello. How's that sound? System says everything is good. Plus, I do see green bars on my mic. Hear everything else, including StreamYard test music. Yeah. Put my readers on and see what we can see. Why are we not having voice? Says voice here. Mic sounds good. Well, yeah, let me just bring you on board and we'll go at it from there. Okay. Could just be your ears, possibly. And you're muted on your mic, so who knows where that's going. We'll pull up the ADDICT document. Get that ready to roll.
Hello.
Hey, I can hear you great. Can you hear me yet? You still there? Wonder if we have a visitor that can check. Hold on a minute. I think I got an idea. How do I get to my own stream? YouTube now live. Check, check, check. Hey, I can hear myself on my own stream, so I might as well like my own stream. Looks like we're good. I mean, maybe it's just you, and you don't listen to me anyway, so. Oh, I can hear everything great on, but I can't type. Again, we're going to run back into the ADDICT document. This time we're going to go over the combat example. We went through the last couple of times on the other end of it, the explanations and stuff where the annotated links and everything. Can hear everything except for me. Maybe Dungeon Master D can confirm. I tried my listening to my own stream and it seems to be coming out okay. Of course. It's just Dooms. All right. It's just weird. Internet, computers.
Yo, hello.
Oh, I can hear you just fine, so I don't know what
You hear
the
me
deal
all
is.
right?
I can hear you great. Yep.
Yeah, I just can't hear, but I can hear all the sample music and
Ah,
everything
interesting.
in StreamYard. So I've never had that happen before.
Now,
Um,
me neither. Usually, when my mic gives me those little green dots and stuff across it, it means it's
really, really
working
weird.
okay. But yeah,
I mean, it's not going to do me any good if I can't hear what's going on. Let me try a pair of headphones and switch that
okay.
up. Because
You got
even mic
earbuds in.
checking
I don't know if
myself
that
and
makes a
monitoring
difference.
back through my earbud works fine.
Maybe
It
it's your
might just be a
earbuds.
StreamYard thing where I gotta bounce out and come back in. Hang on.
All right. Any better?
Yeah, these headphones work fine too, but
Work
I
with
still
mine
hear
too.
nothing from George. I'm
Still
going
hears me.
to disconnect from StreamYard
Okay.
and come back.
Drop out and come back in. Yeah. Well,
That's really, really bizarre.
really bizarre. Same
Yeah, and
old,
there's nothing
same
sitting
old.
here. Yeah, I don't
Nobody
know.
ever has
All right.
technical problems on the internet or anything like that. Right. Well, and last time we were talking, I got it up here on the screen there. We went over, and now we're down to slide 11. There's like 20 slides in this thing. We went over all the different stuff. We'll start off at the top here. Advanced Dungeons and Dragons Initiative and Combat Table, compiled by David M. Prada. This is version 2.2, 19 March 2006, and it's March, and we were reviewing it again 20 years later. Um, just to make sure we're all up to speed on first edition Dungeons and Dragons and how that kind of stuff was supposed to work. And um, probably for future streams, we'll reflect on the changes and stuff that it went through over the years to basically to where it is, the game that it is now. But we're going to go ahead and start on the origins of Advanced Dungeons and Dragons and where that went. We did talk about Encounters Combat Initiative. We went over. Let me click here to the next page. The things like weapon speed factor, who goes first uh, for initiative, and stuff like this. And now we're ended up over here with the combat example. All right. This is basically an example of melee. Any better now, Dooms? I'm guessing not. I don't know. Just technical difficulties. Bear with us a moment.
Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you great. I don't know if you can hear us. Still no, huh?
Yeah, I
Wow.
can hear absolutely any other sounds from my computer except for this. Um,
You don't
I
have
mean,
this.
all I can really do is just, I mean, all I can really do is reboot. Maybe I could try this in a new StreamYard in another browser,
I don't
but
know.
it's got me flummoxed.
Huh. quite odd. Yeah, it's going to be hard for us
Nah,
to.
I've got no chats or anything, no voice in Discord, but I can close down Discord.
Hmm.
I've been in dozens of these and never had this problem. Let me
No,
quit
I know. I've
Discord.
never had any sort of issues with anything like this. I mean, this is one way of drawing all this out into a long stream. Although I don't think that's the way we wanted to do it. That's for
Okay,
sure.
well, this is pretty silly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let me see if I can go straight to. I went to a completely. I think it might be software that I run on my system that's not playing nice.
Hmm.
Oh yeah, figures. I can hear you now.
You hear me now? Okay.
Yeah. Sorry about all that
Oh, okay. You
mess.
updated to Verizon, did you?
Well, it's this. I had to explicitly my sound virtualization wasn't working, and so I had to explicitly cancel all that and tell Windows specifically which device to use, which happened to be the headphones. But all good now.
All right. Yep. We're all
Sorry.
good now. Well, hearing, yeah, you guys can hear us, which is great, which is fantastic. But us being able to hear each other so we know where we're at, since neither one of us are lip readers or we don't know sign language, anything like that, so it's not going to help us. So,
I'm not
all
even
right.
nearly smart enough to learn that stuff. So
Yeah, I'm too old. My brain is too full. It's time to do some brain down dump so I can make room for some more advanced Dungeons and Dragons.
there you go.
All righty. I wish I could read this on the screen. I wish I could zoom in on this on the way StreamYard has it all set up. That would be great. But just not the way it works, I guess.
Yeah, I think they're sticking you to 720p because you're not forking out that big cash. You know?
Yeah, no money. So I got to look off to my side over here to my right, and then so I can
And
read
I
off
look
this
over
stuff
here.
as we move through it. Right. So covered all that other stuff. Now we're going to go ahead and jump into the example of melee and where all this stuff comes together, ties all together. One of the things I want to remind everybody is this also includes stuff from Unearthed Arcana, which changed a bit because it added some extra complexity over and above what first edition AD&D had straight out of the books. Um, right off the bat, first paragraph. You know, a party of good and neutral adventurers is exploring a dungeon. The party includes a cavalier. Bam, there we go. That's Unearthed Arcana. A paladin, a cleric, a druid, a fighter, a barbarian, another Unearthed Arcana, and a ranger, all human. Right, and we'll see
Just the
later
way it
on
should
with it.
be.
What's that?
Just the way it should be.
That's the way it should be, right? Um, and we'll see how later on it throws in specialization and stuff like this and how all that stuff works out. They round the corner and encounter a party of evil marauders, clearly evil marauders, including a human magic user, definitely a marauder right there, a human illusionist, a dwarven thief, a human acrobat, another Unearthed Arcana, a dwarven assassin, and a human monk, and a human bard. Right, bard, one of my favorite characters out of the first edition player's handbook, and so is the monk. Although I do prefer the monk. Well, that's another stream we'll go over later on different classes that we prefer out of other things. Surprise dice are rolled. A barbarian, and by association, his party. We talked about this before. Certain characters lent their abilities up front, but on some sides of it too, the party did not get those benefits in other ways. And by association, his party has only a 10% chance to be surprised. That comes out of the Unearthed Arcana and the Barbarian. The dungeon does not qualify as familiar terrain, unless, of course, that's where he grew up. But I would imagine, since they're exploring it, he didn't grow up there. Right? He rolls a 69 barbarian on deep percent and thus is not surprised. On the evil side, why they got to be evil? The monk being a 7th level and thus the whole red party is normally surprised 22% of the time. Yeah, the monk out of the first edition, um, every level he gained reduced the amount he was surprised by 1%. Started out at 33 and a third, one pip on a d6, and it went down from there. So they had to account for that.
Yeah, right. And this is one of those examples that we talked about earlier in the document where if it's easier to convert to percentage because of weird surprise probabilities,
Right.
then just do that. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this might even have a chart for doing that, or there's a chart you can find. But basically, each pip on a d6 is like 16 and 2/3. So 2 and 6 is 33, or 16 and a third, whatever. It's
Right.
yeah, but you convert to percentages, and you end up getting good at it, even if you or use a
Yeah.
cheat sheet. Right.
This is a game where you should use all the dice, not just the six-siders, right? So might have to turn it over to percentile rolls instead, right? That's perfect.
Right.
On the evil side, the monk being seventh level, right? Thus, the whole red party, because again, they gain the benefit of him being the monk, is normally surprised 22% of the time. However, the clever cleric had previously, cleric on the good side, because we read the blue is the good and the red is the bad, previously cast silence 15-foot radius on his torch, right? So this way, when they're stomping around through the dungeon, at least they won't be heard, but they'll be seen from 100 yards off. The DM rules that thus silenced blue party will increase their surprise chances by 1 in 6, 16 and 2/3%. This modifier is added to the monk's base 22%, yielding a net 38 and 2/3 or 39% chance of surprise. All right, here we go. It's math. They had assumed that you had taken math in school before you played any of these games.
Right. Right. And this is a good example of DM adjudication.
Sure.
Something that's not covered in the book, but I agree completely. With that assessment, there's certain things that even in Raw, the DM was still going to need to adjudicate because you can't cover every possibility. If
No,
the opposing party is under a silence spell, but not all of them are, or silence 15-foot radius, it's not until
somebody's
later
just got to
editions.
make some
Yeah,
ruling, right?
exactly. Later
Otherwise,
editions
the
codify
book to
all of
cover
that
all of
stuff.
that stuff would be what 4, 5, 6,000 pages long if you were trying to cover every potential option or something in a dungeon. Right? Couldn't do that.
Right.
The monk rolls a 38 on D%, therefore his side will be surprised. Okay, dividing the monk's result of 38 by 16 and 2/3, right? 1 pip on each die 6, and rounding up, we find that his party will be surprised for 3 segments. This is insanely important. Several members of the red party have reaction adjustments from high dexterity, though, and thus will not be surprised for the full 3 segments. We talked about reaction adjustment and stuff in the previous video. The illusionist, thief, and the bard each have a 17 dexterity, so they will only be surprised for 1 segment because it adjusts it by the 2. The acrobat is a 16 dexterity and will only be surprised for 2 segments. This is very important because if we all recall from when we read through the rule book, if you are surprised, the segment that you are surprised in, the other side can do pretty much everything they can do an entire round on that surprise segment. The only exception to that would be spells that have casting times.
Yeah, and I don't know if we talked about it. I know I rambled a lot, but I kind of like to look at those surprise segments as sort of a zoom in, quick action, light flashing before your eyes sort of thing, which uh, extends the time where everybody can do things. It's sort of like Matrix style bullet time or something, right?
Yeah, there you go. I mean, if you use your imagination and let you do some description to your players and let their imaginations run wild with what's happening and stuff here too, right? All the slow-mo stuff. Every kung fu movie where they slow-mo punches and everything, right? Okay, D3, of course, everybody has a D3 on their table, is rolled to determine the distance between the parties. We've talked about this last time. You've got your encounter distances, but then your encounter distances are also mitigated by the length, the size of the rooms, or the lengths of your hallways and stuff in the dungeon as well. Found to be 20 foot. Blue party swings into action. The Cavalier and the Paladin declare that they will charge the Magic User and Illusionist, respectively, which is a good idea, I would imagine. They are both wearing plate mail and move at 6 inches. Their doubled charge movement, remember, bipeds can double theirs, right? Of 12 inches or 12 foot per segment. This will take them 2 of their surprise segments to complete the charge. Maybe they got to cover the entire 20 foot and 12 foot segments. Well, let's see. Barbarian also decides to charge the Magic User. Yeah, gang up on the Magic User. Right? With he's potentially the most dangerous one of the opposing party, right?
He's about to be the most dead.
But yeah, sure. I think he chose spells poorly in this, but we'll go over all of that. His movement rate is 15 inches, but that's what it is, double to 30 for charging. He can complete the charge and strike in one segment. Being a little quicker, he can get there a little faster. The cleric tosses away his silenced torch because he doesn't need it in his hand anymore because he's got to free up his hands for casting, and begins casting another 15-foot radius spell, silence 15-foot radius at the Magic User because he doesn't want the Magic User casting spells. The casting time is 5 segments, only 3 of which can be completed during surprise because they had the 3-segment surprise round. Even though each surprise segment, the other players get to do what they would normally do during a full round, spells are outside that and they require the full segments of casting time to be resolved. Alrighty, the spell will take effect 2 segments into the first full round of combat. The druid decides to throw his spear +2 at the illusionist. The fighter will sip from his potion of invisibility in the first segment. All right, a result of 2 on a d4 +1 indicates that the potion will take effect 2 segments later. We talked about this last time about timing of when magic devices and potions and stuff, how long they took to activate. The ranger, meanwhile, decides to let loose with her light crossbow. She did not have it cocked and loaded, but it is still entitled to her normal rate of fire of 3 every 2, as she is a specialist. Again, this was stuff that came out of the Unearthed Arcana book. Right? In each segment of surprise, she fires at the acrobat. Why not?
Right.
Now, and here we'll see where timing comes into play as well, right?
Yeah.
Now we begin to say again?
Oh, sorry. Just
no, go ahead.
All of that it serves it. Well, first off, this example is more full. If you want, I highly recommend this document if you want to learn how AD&D combat should work. The example in the Dungeon Master's Guide, the example of play, it's excellent, but it's flavorful, and it doesn't really match up to what's in the rules, at least rules is written. So I suggest you read both. But the other thing that this does, this shows us right here a couple of things. Surprise can be completely catastrophic for the surprise party. Because this is already set up where it's hard to find a way out for the bad guys, right?
No.
Especially hammering on the illusionist and the magic user to make sure they can't cast spells, and surprise afforded the good party the opportunity to do that.
I mean, we could all guess. I mean, I know this is all scripted, but it doesn't turn out so well for the bad guys. Yeah.
I imagine not. I haven't read it in a little while.
All right, now we begin to resolve these actions. First, in surprise segment 1, the ranger makes her first attack with her light crossbow. She is firing at the acrobat, who is AC 8, but AC type 10. Here we go with the armor class types and the hit adjustments based on armor class types. The ranger rolls an 11. Since she is a specialist firing at point blank range, she gets a +2 bonus. She also gets another +2 bonus because she's firing bolts +2. All right, magic again. All right, finally, a light crossbow versus AC type 10 receives an additional +3 bonus. This makes the final result an 18, as the ranger is 8th level and 18 hits armor class -4, thus hitting the acrobat easily. Damage is twice D4 +2. They get double damage at point blank range. A +2 for magic. The ranger roll. You only die. You roll the damage twice. Yeah, there's other exceptions where you own thief Backstab only rolls the dice as extra damage, not all the pluses.
Right.
Yeah, that's different and it's outside this one, right? The Ranger rolls a 4 and inflicts 14 hit points of damage. That is a devastating first shot with a crossbow at point blank. Yeah. Now I know why everybody wants to play specialists out of Unearthed Arcana.
Yeah.
And the monsters don't have that. Right. The Druid then throws his spear +2 at the Illusionist, who is AC 7. Again, armor type of 10, right? The Druid rolls a 5. The +2 magic bonus makes this a 7. Right. But a -2 penalty for medium range, right? Because they're 20 feet away, which kind of seems a little, but that's neither here nor there. I don't think Spear's got enough respect in first edition Dungeons and Dragons. Drops it again to a 5. There is no adjustment for a thrown spear versus armor class, armor type 10. It's a 0. As the Druid is 12th level, this hits AC 9. Not quite good enough.
Yeah,
So
and a
move on.
quick aside, the reason
Yes.
that the armor class, and I'm sure this is probably obvious to a lot of people, but the reason that the armor class is different than the AC type is the AC type dictates what type of armor they're wearing, and then the armor class subsumes that type plus all of the adjustments associated with it. So even if you have, say, you're wearing no armor and a ring of protection +1, which brings you to a 9, and a dexterity of +2, which brings you to a 7, you're still wearing no armor. So what we can infer is that the acrobat has AC type 10, which means no armor, and is relying only on dexterity adjustment. And the other one, the druid, yeah, well, the illusionist, AC 7, because he's wearing no armor, but he's got bonuses. But we still go against the armor type and not the armor class.
Got a little complaint here about 90% magic resistance monsters. Yes, and we should go in and talk about that there one time or another, because magic resistance, I'd always been playing it wrong for a long time because I just didn't read the first part of the monster manual. But that's another good stream. We can talk about that stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, top of the page here. Barbarian completes his charge at the magic user, who is AC 10. Why doesn't he have protection? I don't know. He's wielding a longsword +1 with a hand axe in his offhand, right? We mentioned this about using 2 weapons before, too, in the modifications, right? Barbarian gets to make 2 attack rolls, 1 for each weapon. With the sword, he rolls a 17, hitting easily. Damage is D8, +1 for his 17 strength, +1 for magic. He inflicts 7 hit points of damage with the sword. For his axe attack, he rolls even better, a 19. This causes a D6 +1 damage for 4 hit points. The magic user sustains 11 hit points of damage, and they don't have a whole lot of pool of hit points to be taking that kind of stuff.
Right, and this is a perfect example of an attack routine, right? So if it were a situation where the barbarian would have multiple attack routines, he'd be able to do each of those things 2 times or 3 times or whatever it is, right? Because it's dual fighting, not separated attacks.
Yeah, his routine is both of those weapons together, not one each individually. Yeah. Now the Ranger fires her second crossbow bolt, and again at the acrobat. A roll of 15 hits, causing her another 8 hit points of damage. At the end of the first segment of surprise, the Cavalier and Paladin are halfway through their charge, and the Cleric is in the midst of casting a spell. We proceed to the second surprise segment. I mean, that was just the first surprise segment.
Brutal.
Right? As noted earlier, the Illusionist, the Thief, and the Bard were only surprised for 1 segment, so they are on their guard now. In addition, the Monk has a heavy crossbow of speed, which he can fire in this segment, despite still being surprised, because that's the nature of that particular weapon. He targets the Paladin. The DM decides that the Illusionist, who sees the Paladin barreling down on him, will start to cast improved invisibility on himself. Not a bad choice of spell, but maybe not in this context. The casting time takes 4 segments. That's a long time. So the invisibility will take effect 2 segments into the first full combat round. All right, the Dwarven Thief who has been hidden from view in the second rank, will attempt to hide in shadows. The bard, meanwhile, begins casting heat metal, useful spell, on the entire blue party, save the druid, who is not wearing metal armor. Right. The casting time is also 4 segments, thus the spell will be completed 2 segments into the first full round. On the blue side, the Cavalier and Paladin will complete their charge movement. The Cleric is still casting Silence, 15-foot radius. The Druid begins casting Bark Skin on himself. The casting time is 3 segments, so it will be completed 1 segment into the first full round. That is after this surprise round, right? The fighter slowly advances while waiting for his potion to take effect. The Barbarian continues to attack the still surprised magic user, and the Ranger continues firing her light crossbow. Right, due to his magic heavy crossbow speed, the still surprised monk fires first in the segment because it is that magic weapon, that is its property. It goes off before anything else happens. He rolls a 7, poor monk. The +1 bonus for magic crossbow together with his bolt +2 make it a 10. However, the Paladin is AC type 2, so the heavy crossbow takes a -1 penalty. The net result is 9, which for a 7th level monk hits AC 7. Not quite good enough. The bolt glances harmlessly off the Paladin's plate mail. Something to be said for being well protected but slow.
Yeah, and this is a good example of why one might choose a heavy crossbow versus a light crossbow, beyond the additional point of damage or whatever that you'll get out of a heavy bolt. But it's that the heavy crossbow is much more penetrative against plate mail armor than the light crossbow is. So if you use weapon versus armor type, as this document's doing, the heavy crossbow, especially one of speed, but even if it weren't of speed, is more useful in a lot of the heavier armors than a light crossbow is.
Right. With weapon versus armor type, weapon choice matters.
Yep.
All right. Where would we leave off? The Barbarian's attack rate is 3 out of 2, so he will attack twice this segment. Ooh. As his attack routine, here we go, here's our quote, is with 2 weapons, he gets to strike twice with each. Ouch.
Yes.
His first attack rolls are 13 for his longsword +1 and 8 for his hand axe. Both hit the AC 10 magic user for a total of 10 hit points. That's swing 1. The Ranger also has a rate of fire of 3 every 2, but as she fired twice last segment, she can only fire once this segment. She rolls a 14, hitting the Acrobat for 12 hit points this time. The Acrobat only had 10 hit points left, so he is now unconscious. Down goes 1. Cavalier completes her charge against the magic user, rolling a 4. She is 9th level and receives a +2 weapon of choice bonus. There's another one of your specializations. A +1 bonus for her magic longsword +1, and a +2 bonus for charging. The Cavalier also receives a +2 bonus with a longsword versus AC type of 10. This makes her net result 11, which hits AC 1, more than enough to hit the magic user. She rolls D8 for damage, and her +1 for her 16th strength, +1 for magic. The magic user takes 7 hit points of damage. She had only 4 hit points left, so she too is now unconscious. Not going too well for the bad guys in this round.
Yeah, we haven't even
we haven't finished surprise, and already 2 characters have gone down. Right?
Yeah,
Not even done surprise.
Maximize your surprise chances every opportunity you get,
Right.
because that's gonna the little simulation stuff that I did before. It's gonna give you a massive difference in win-loss ratio.
Right. So always have a ranger in your group, or always have the monk, or always have, well, if you're using an Arthurcana, your barbarian. One of those has to be in your group if you want to maximize your surprise.
Right.
Okay, at the same
And
time, the
minimizing
paladin
it.
completes his charge against the illusionist. Poor illusionist. He rolls a 3, which this is incredible here. The paladin, however, receives a +3 for his 18 strength, +2 for weapon of choice, +1 for his magic longsword, +1, +2 for charging, and +2 for longsword versus AC type 10. This totals 13, which, for an 11th level paladin, hits an armor class of -3. The paladin could not miss. Damage is D8 plus 6 for strength. Ooh, percentile strength there. Awesome. Plus 1 for magic. A roll of 5 equals 12 hit points of damage to the illusionist, which also ruins his spell because he was struck during his casting.
Correct.
Again, poor choice of spells. You want to go with something fast.
Oh, yeah.
Since the magic user has fallen, the barbarian wants to make his second attack routine against the adjacent illusionist. However, since the illusionist is no longer surprised, he is not vulnerable to free attacks anymore. He wasn't under the surprise, so the barbarian's extra attack routine on the surprise round couldn't go against somebody who was on their guard.
Right.
The barbarian can engage him, but will not have an opportunity to score damage until the first full attack round. He can move to fight him, he just can't make a swing for the rest of this round. At the end of the 2 surprise segments, the cleric and druid are still casting spells. The cavalier, paladin, and barbarian are engaged in melee. The soon-to-be invisible fighter is closing to striking distance, and the ranger has been firing her light crossbow. On the red side, the magic user and acrobat have been incapacitated. The illusionist is in melee with the paladin, always a bad idea, and the barbarian. Let's see. The thief is hiding in shadows, and the bard is casting a spell.
Yeah, the illusionist is in melee with the paladin and the
barbarian. Yeah. Not for long. Yes, the assassin and the monk are still surprised. The third and final surprise segment now begins. Right? We've already taken out 2 characters, and we're just barely done with 2 surprise segments. Not even a full round. The illusionist, who will not likely survive the first full round of combat, go figure here, right? With the paladin and the barbarian both wailing away at him, decides to start casting mass suggestion. Why another? I don't know. Clearly, intelligence might have been a high roll, but just no wisdom.
Yeah.
The casting time is 6 segments, so it will take effect 5 segments into the first round. He hopes that the dice let him get this spell off in time. No, because the paladin cannot miss. The bard, meanwhile, is continuing the heat metal spell that she started last segment. That is a nasty spell. In the blue party, the cavalier will attack the still surprised assassin. The paladin and barbarian are still engaged with the illusionist, but do not get an opportunity to strike for damage until the first full round, since the illusionist is up and on his guard. The cleric and druid are still occupied with their spells. The fighter continues closing. At 9 inches, he moves a total of 18 feet in the second and third segments, while the ranger fires her light crossbow at the monk. Ranger again is entitled to 2 shots this segment. For her first attack, she rolls a 17. This should hit the monk without question. However, being a monk, he is allowed to save versus petrification to dodge the missile. The monk rolls a 3, which is not going to do it, failing the save. Monks do have some nice powers if they go off for you like they're supposed to. The ranger's crossbow bolt hits for maximum 14 hit points. At the same time, the cavalier takes her first of her 2 attacks against the assassin. She rolls an 18, undoubtedly enough to hit the AC 10 assassin. Why isn't the assassin wearing protection? Anyway, the damage is only 5 hit points, though barely a scratch, but not for long. For her second attack, the ranger rolls a 13. Remember that she got the 2 shots off. All right, the monk again fails his save versus petrification and suffers another 8 hit points of damage. So that's 5 missiles from the ranger in the first 3 segments. Cavalier also hits the assassin again for another 5 hit points. At the end of this, the third surprise segment, the fighter's potion takes effect. He is now invisible. Surprise is over, and the first full round of combat begins. Both sides declare actions. The DM decides that while the illusionist continues casting a spell, the hidden thief will attempt to backstab the paladin. The assassin will strike at the cavalier. The monk will return fire on the ranger, and the bard will finish her heat metal spell. The players announce that the Cavalier, Paladin, and Barbarian will continue attacking their respective opponents as the Cleric and Druid complete their spells. The Ranger will fire at the Monk, while the Invisible Fighter moves into position to strike at the Bard next round. For the first time in this encounter, initiative is rolled. We've already lost two characters, and initiative is now being rolled.
You're right.
The dice favor the red party, which wins initiative 6-5. Now, timing of everyone's actions is determined. The Monk, with his heavy crossbow speed, automatically fires first. That's just the nature of that weapon. He rolls a 4. This is increased to 7 with the magic bonuses. This Monk needs new dice. The Ranger is AC type 5, which grants another +2 bonus for a 9 total. This only hits AC 7. The Ranger is AC 4, so the bolt again glances off harmlessly.
Yeah, and I just want to say something here as well. Is that often, depending on how your DM does things, often weapon versus armor type, particularly when you choose your weapons, knowing that you're playing that way, they can be of great benefit to the players, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
just a slightly better roll here with that heavy crossbow. That +2 for striking that chainmail, which generally makes sense because the bolt would just go through a ring, right? Could mean the difference between hitting and missing. So while people might balk at the calculations, if all this stuff is on your character sheet, I think players should encourage DMs to play this way.
Right. It's
You know,
to their advantage. I mean, turnabout's fair play. If they've got monsters chasing them with spears and daggers and axes and battle axes, the same thing. The benefits
right.
would apply to them too.
Yes, but not to creatures that are using natural weaponry, which you're going to encounter probably 60-70% of the time, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of monsters out there with natural weaponry, which this doesn't make. Nope. Yeah, flat roll there. Okay, the Druid's Barkskin spell begins to take effect now, improving his AC from 6 to 5. Hey, every little bit helps, right? Next, the Cleric's Silence 15-foot radius spell goes off without a saving throw against the unconscious magic user. Well, okay, we can no longer hear him bleeding to death.
Yeah, that's beating a dead horse.
Right. While this enhances the fighter's invisibility and, unfortunately, the thief's hide in shadows because there's no more noise, right? It is not quick enough to silence the bard. Having one initiative, the bard's spell Heat Metal takes effect just slightly earlier in segment 2 than the cleric's spell. Even though they kind of go off in the same segment, since the bard won, his spell takes priority. Yeah.
Right.
Since the fighter became invisible, he can no longer be targeted. Well, so that means no heat metal, right? But the Cavalier and Paladin, both of whom are wearing plate mail, are affected, as is the Barbarian, who is unarmored but wielding metal weapons. On this, the first round of the spell, their heat metal items become uncomfortably warm. Both the Cleric and Ranger are wearing magical chainmail +1, which is entitled to Save versus Magical Fire. They both pass the save, and their armor is unaffected by the spell. Great. No, the bard's not getting much help here, although they will be unable to draw any metallic weapons. You can still pummel somebody, right? It was determined earlier that the illusionist spell would be completed in segment 5. He is being attacked by both the Paladin with a longsword +1 and the Barbarian with a longsword +1 and a hand axe. Subtracting the blue party's losing initiative roll of 5 from the weapon speed factors, 5 and 4 respectively, and treating negative numbers as positive, it is seen that the weapons will strike in segment 0, the very beginning of the round, and segment 1, both before the spell is completed. The poor illusionist did not make out so well after all. I knew he wasn't the minute he started casting long spells.
Yeah.
All right. Paladin rolls a 1. Unbelievably, this is sufficient to hit armor class 1. Yeah. Here we go. No official AD&D rule states that the hit roll of 1 always misses.
That's right, and that's an important distinction. A saving throw result of 1 always misses, and
Always fails. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and it's specifically stated in there that you should not change that rule. But a 1 or a 20 doesn't automatically hit or miss any armor class.
No. Alrighty. The illusionist suffers 10 hit points of damage and loses his spell. Again, the barbarian, for his part, rolls a 5 with his longsword +1. He receives +1 for his 17 strength, +1 for magic, and +2 versus armor class type 10, giving him a total of 9. For an 8th level barbarian, this hits armor class 5 and so causes 6 hit points of damage. The barbarian's hand axe, another 19, inflicts 4 hit points more, killing the illusionist. Yes. Poor. So now we're down 3 and we're barely into the fight. Now the hidden thief can make his backstab against the paladin. Despite the fact that the thief's side won the initiative, the paladin is entitled to 2 attacks per round, while the thief has but 1. Thus, the paladin will always strike first. We talked about that the other day with the multiple attack routines and timing.
Right.
The red party's luck being what it is, the thief rolls a 3. Well, these guys need, the dungeon master just needs to throw them dice away and get new dice for his evil partner. Even with a +4 bonus for striking from behind, he still suffers a -1 penalty for using a longsword versus armor type 3. The paladin's shield is negated, right, because he was being attacked from behind. This totals a 6, which for an 8th level thief doesn't even hit armor class 10. He misses horribly and is now plainly visible. And he made his attack coming out of the shadows. And likely target for the paladin's second attack routine. Should be, right? Cavalier now makes her first attack against the assassin. Again, since she receives 2 attacks per round and the assassin only 1, the Cavalier will always strike first regardless of initiative. She rolls an 11 and hits again, this time for a full 10 hit points. The assassin returns the attack, rolling a 17. This is modified by a -2 for longsword versus armor type 2. Ooh, not great against plate, right?
Right.
Net result of 15 for a 9th level assassin, hits armor class 1. Cavalier is in plate mail and shield with a 16 dexterity, so has AC of 0. Oh, the assassin's sword barely misses. The one chance in here they get to score some damage.
Yeah.
She will need to roll an 18 or better to hit. The ranger, who is entitled to only 1 shot this round, fires at the monk. This time she rolls a 5, +2 for specialization, +2 for magic, and +3 for armor class type 10 for a net result of 12. This hits AC 5 monk, who yet again fails his save versus petrification, right, and suffers 14 hit points of damage. The monk is now unconscious. All his knocking arrows out of the way skills did him no good this
None.
fight.
Monk down.
Yeah. The paladin, as predicted, makes, so now we're down 4 characters and haven't even finished the second round of the combat. And these are not low level characters either.
Right.
The paladin, as predicted, made his second attack against the foolish thief who attempted to backstab him. As was illustrated earlier, the paladin cannot miss AC 1 or worse, and thus does not even bother to roll. Yes, he hits the thief for 11 hit points of damage. The cavalier, meanwhile, makes her second attack on the assassin. She rolled a 17 and inflicts 9 hit points more. All right, here is the... here we go. At the end of the first round of combat, the illusionist is dead. The cavalier is engaged with the assassin, while the paladin barbarian are similarly engaged with the thief. Probably not for long there either. Except for the cleric, druid, and the ranger, who never advance forward, everyone is silenced. The cavalier, paladin, barbarian, and cleric. So this has all happened noiselessly. And ranger are under the effect of the bard's heat metal spell. The invisible fighter is in striking distance of the bard. The monk is unconscious at -1 hit points, while the acrobat and magic user each suffer 1 hit point of bleeding damage, leaving them at -3 and -4 respectively. Actions are now declared for round 2. Hey, we got somebody who lived into the second full round. The DM decides that the magic user, acrobat, and monk will all lay on the ground bleeding, not that they have much choice. The thief and assassin will continue attacking their opponents, while the bard, who is unaware of the invisible fighter, will drink half of her potion of superheroism. The DM rules that she will need 1 segment to take it from her pouch, 1 segment to drink it, and a further d4 plus 1 equals 3 segments before it takes effect. The players declare that the Cavalier, Paladin, and the Barbarian will continue attacking their respective opponents. The Cleric, who is outside the silenced area, will cast Light on the Bard's eyes. Always a fantastic spell to cast.
Yeah.
Yes. Always a fantastic. And I've had it used against me as a DM with excellent results, too.
Right.
Casting time is 4 segments. The Druid will cast Flame Blade, 3 segments, while the Ranger, also unaware of the invisible fighter's position, will fire on the Bard. This is why they keep mentioning it. This matters. Initiative dice are rolled, and the blue party wins 4-3. So the good guys win the initiative. Cavalier, Paladin, Fighter, Barbarian, and Ranger are each allowed 2 attacks this round. Initiative is irrelevant for them, even though they won. The Cavalier, because they have multiple attacks versus 1. Cavalier hits the assassin with a roll of 8, causing 4 hit points of damage. The Paladin automatically hits the thief. He pretty much automatically hits just about everything for 11 hit points. The Barbarian hits with his longsword plus 1, doing another 3 hit points of damage, but misses with his hand axe on a roll of 2. The now visible fighter strikes the Bard for a whopping 17 hit points. D8 plus 6 for 18 double out strength. Plus 3 for double specialization, plus 1 for magic longsword, plus 1. Unfortunately,
yeah. And the reason, for anyone who doesn't know, the reason that the fighter is now visible is because if you attack while under an invisibility spell, it negates your
invisibility. Yeah.
Right.
Let's see. Unfortunately, this puts in the same line of fire of the Ranger. Since the fighter and bard are both humans and thus about the same size, the Ranger has a 50-50 chance of hitting either of them. That's the way that stuff is ruled. The Dungeon Master should break up all the combatants in there, determine their size, and come up with a bunch of things to figure out who gets hit by the arrow. Not they've changed the rules a little bit over the years, but that's the way it was supposed to have run. The DM secret die roll indicates that the fighter will hit the target. No, I'll let the Ranger roll it. So if she messes it up, she looks at those dice in shame.
Yeah, I like the player to roll too.
All right. The blue party's luck continues, however, as the Ranger rolls a 1 and misses her ally. The Druid's Flame Blade now takes effect, followed by the Cleric's Light spell. The Bard, however, easily makes her saving throw with a 16, so the Light spell goes off immediately behind her. Right. It is now the red party's turn to act. The Bard's potion of superheroism kicks in. She is a 7th level fighter, so gains 3 levels and 2d10 plus 3 equals 17 hit points. That's what the superheroism does for you. A roll of 5d4 indicates that the effects will last for 11 rounds. But this is divided by 2, 6 rounds, as she drank only half the potion. These are rulings by the Game Master there, right? Meanwhile, the thief attacks the Barbarian, figuring he is less likely to hit plate-armored Paladin. He rolls a 10. As the Barbarian is AC type 10, this is modified to a 12, which hits AC 7. The unarmored Barbarian, however, with his 18 dexterity, oh my lord, is AC 2. Not much worse than the Paladin after all. The thief does not feel at all good about this. He shouldn't. On the other side of the melee, the assassin again swings at the Cavalier. As was determined earlier, she needs to roll an 18 or better to hit. She rolled a 15 and misses again. Now the blue fighter types get their second attacks. The Ranger, seeing that she no longer has a clear shot, will hold her fire. Go ahead and shoot your friend in the back. Yeah. Take a chance. Come on, it's only 50-50. Cavalier hits the assassin for 4 hit points more. The Paladin and Barbarian kill the thief. Yeah. Don't even bother rolling. Yep.
Right.
The fighter hits the Bard again, this time for 14 hit points, which is subtracted from the temporary 17 hit points the bard gained from her potion of superheroism. Alrighty, on to the next page. At the end of round 2, the arms and armor of the Cavalier, Paladin, and Barbarian are now hot, and they each suffer d4 damage from the heat metal spell. I like that spell. Right, the damage rolls are 3, 1, and 3 respectively, and this being the only damage they have sustained so far. The illusionist and thief are dead. The magic user, acrobat, and monk each lose another hit point to bleeding, leaving them at -5, -4, and -2 respectively. The assassin is still engaged with the cavalier, and the bard with the fighter. Discretion should be the better part of valor here. Run and just risk getting hit.
Yeah. Surrender is going to do you no good.
No, they're going to kill you, right? Just take off.
Yeah.
If you can, maybe you might get lucky and just get only a couple of points as you run away. Spells in effect are the aforementioned heat metal on most of the blue party, since silence 15-foot radius on all the melee combatants, and bark skin and flame blade on the druid. The bard will have the benefit of her potion of superheroism for 5 more rounds. Actions are now declared for round 3. The assassin continues fighting the cavalier, while the bard will attack the fighter with her broadsword +3. Nice. She's going to lose that bard as loot here, that sword as loot here in a moment. Cavalier will continue to attack the assassin, as the fighter will the bard. The barbarian will drop his hot weapons and pick up the unconscious magic user's staff. Yes, use their weapons against them. The paladin will drop his sword and shield and begin removing his hot armor. Cleric and ranger will move up behind the cavalier and paladin, respectively. The druid will charge the assassin. Okay. Now, here we go. Initiative dice are again rolled tied 5 to 5. Now we get to come into weapon speed, timing, and stuff like this. The DM rules that the barbarian can easily retrieve the magic user's staff in 1 round. That means, yeah, because he's not really holding on all that tightly, laying down dead on the ground, right?
Right.
The paladin, however, will need 4 rounds to remove his plate mail. The drawback to wearing heavy armor is it doesn't come off as easy.
Right.
Cleric and ranger each take their movement, which is of little consequence to timing of attacks. Fighter and bard are each entitled to 2 attacks this round. Since the initiative was tied, weapon speeds are used to determine the order of attack. However, both swords have the same speed factor of 5, so the attacks will be truly simultaneous. The fighter hits the bard with a 13, causing 13 hit points of damage. The bard hits the fighter with a 19, causing 10 hit points of damage. Cavalier is also entitled to 2 attacks this round, and thus she strikes before the assassin. Rolls an 8, hits for 6 hit points of damage. The assassin had only 6 hit points left, so she is unconscious. All right, down yet another one. The DM allows the druid, who is charging the assassin, to continue on to the bard. He will strike last in the round. Fighter and the bard are now make their second attacks against each other. The fighter hits with a 12, causing 14 hit points of damage. The bard also hits with a 12, causing 9 hit points of damage. As she is less than 10 feet away, the cavalier may also take her second attack on the bard. Within 10 feet, you're within melee range, basically. She rolls a 13 and hits for 9 hit points. Now the druid completes his charge. Unfortunately, he rolls a 3. Oh no, somebody on the blue side missed. Let me jot this down real quick. Yeah. A +2 bonus for charging makes this a 5. However, the flame blade is treated as a scimitar, which has a -1 penalty against the bard's AC type 5. You know, that's the weapons that druids can use as a scimitar. Druid's net result of 4 misses. The arms and armor of the cavalier and paladin are now searing, and they each suffer 2d4 damage from the heat metal spell. Great spell.
Yeah.
Right, the rolls are 8 and 6. Cavalier, who is still in her helmet, passes out. Maybe take that off first. Right, the paladin, who would have removed his helmet first, does not pass out, but they will both be disabled to 1 to 4 days from the burns.
Horrible.
Finally, thanks the bard.
Man.
All right, at the end of round 3, only the bard remains active on the red side. She is engaged with the fighter and the druid. The unconscious magic user, acrobat, and monk each lose another hit point, bringing them down to -6, -5, and -3, respectively. Cavalier and Paladin are down on the blue side, the Cleric, Ranger, and Barbarian standing nearby. Actions are declared for round 4. The Bard will fight on. The Cleric will help the fallen Cavalier out of her armor, while the Ranger does the same for the Paladin. Nobody else needs to worry about just the Bard, right? The Barbarian will close with the Bard while the Fighter and Druid continue to attack. Initiative is rolled and the Bard wins 3-2. However, the Bard's attack rate is 3 every 2, and she has only 1 attack this round. Therefore, the Fighter with 2 every 1 is allowed to strike first. We covered that with the multiple attack routines. He rolls a 17 and hits for 15 hit points. The Bard returns the attack. She hits with an 18, but only does 5 hit points of damage. The Druid attacks, but alas, he rolls a 1 and misses completely. The Fighter's second attack roll, though, is a 10, which hits for 17 hit points and kills the Bard. The melee is over. Boy, it took us a while to get through all of that, but there we go. I'll leave you some room for comments here on that fight.
Right. Hey, from my perspective, that's a fast moving, dynamic fight. And once again, I mean, as long as you have most of this information, I would say players and even the old early goldenrod sheets and stuff like that had places for weapon versus armor type that you could write in the
they did
row.
All that was on there,
right. And if you don't have that, if you think it's hard to play with these rules, if you don't have that, just add it to your character sheet, or have a separate sheet, or DMs can create a reference sheet that lists all that stuff out, but having it right next to the number and factored into the number that you need to hit each of the armor classes is a good idea. Another thing people should have is some sort of round tracker. DMs particularly, or even players, if they find it useful, DMs should have some sort of round tracker that splits it up into the segments so they can easily notate what's happening where. And similar, that's even useful as a supplement if you're using a VTT, because most of your VTTs aren't going to go into this level of detail of combat.
No, they won't, not at all.
Yeah, and if you have that stuff and you're pretty up on the math, perhaps you've got a D6 to percentile dice conversion sheet or whatever, although it's very simple to do in a calculator or anything else. If you have those things, your combats can be a lot more dynamic and actually run a little bit quicker. Because let's say that surprise wasn't used this way, weapon versus armor type wasn't used this way, and it was sort of the standard DM experience where everybody rolls for surprise. There's one segment of surprise if it exists. Don't worry about the surprise bonuses or penalties, and you just roll initiative over and over again and swing without any dynamic bonuses or anything like that. You'll find that melee is going to take a lot longer and be a lot less interesting.
Right. I put a link to this document in the show notes and stuff if anybody wanted to go after it on their own too.
Right.
You can also find those goldenrod character sheets. Everybody's got a version of that sort of thing out there for download as well if you were playing this around the table.
Yeah.
Here is a pair of charts useful as graphic tool for comparing which of 2 actions occurs first in a round. Right, here's if you're wondering who does what when or whatever, and figuring out your timing and stuff. Here's some great charts that you could the Dungeon Master, he could print it out and have it on his Dungeon Master screen there in front of him for quick reference to him, figuring out when things go out until he has this sort of thing memorized from repetitive play. First one is your tie D6 roll. Your second one here is higher D6 roll versus low D6 roll when things go off in that case. And useful reference information as you're getting used to putting together the timing. Is that the last one on here? What else we got in here? Here's another one. There we go. This kind of reminds me, even though this is when if you make multiple attacks, this kind of reminds me of that chart in Eldritch Wizardry that we covered last time too. It's similar,
Right.
right? When do things happen if you have multiple attack routines? On the average, it's going to be one and two attacks. There's not a whole lot that gives you multiple attacks or more than those, but one and two attacks on the average. All right, and here's that picture, cartoon by the late Donald C. Sutherland III, originally published Strategic Review, 1976. This was a joke because somebody, I guess, approached Gary at a convention or something when he was on a panel, and somebody said, "Hey, somebody's got some questions about the rules," and Gary was kind of short. The rules are simple and precise. Well, to who?
Yeah, exactly.
Not that they're hard. They really aren't. This just takes some getting used to figuring these things out, and some of it is going to be DM fiat on this. What adjudication? When be fair. When do things happen and that kind of stuff in the rules? Um,
Yeah,
Once you get used to running these things, it should flow fairly easily because stuff will just come right out of your head.
right, exactly. And the way it's written, gives you a little bit of gives you actually a lot of room for interpretation. So you can take this, which actually did a really good job of piecing together all of the various pieces, for lack of a better word, found in each of the books and the later reference materials and stuff. But you know, I think I think modifying this for your game, as long as you keep the spirit of the game alive, and I would argue that the spirit of the game includes things like weapon versus armor type, surprise segments, the difference in attacks on a tied initiative, and those kinds of
Yeah.
things. As long as you keep the spirit of the game in mind, I think you can follow a slightly different version of this and still be playing rules as written, because there's areas where the DM can insert rulings that make sense, even if that sort of overhauls or modernizes the uh, the encounter round and surprise and initiative and all of that stuff.
Well, I mean, for example, I mean, we can put it out here. Second edition. When second edition came out, they made some adjustments to the combat round. They went to a die 10 for your initiative. They
Right.
also had an option in there for individual initiative and not group initiative.
Hmm.
And in some ways, I really like that. It seemed to make things a little more dynamic. Players seemed to be at the whim of a dice roll, though they were still a little more in control of their own fate and stuff when it came to some of the fight.
Right, and they had it to where you could they use the weapon speed factor in a different way, but they still used it. They used it where you would add it to the initiative die roll to determine when it is you would go.
Right.
They included weapon versus armor type, even though and literally weapon versus armor type, and sort of simplified the weapon types, right? So you had piercing, slashing, and bludgeoning, and those would go against different types of armor at minuses.
Right.
That was a lot more consistent, but they didn't stray far from the original ideas.
No, no, no. I did. They one in their edit and they tried to make things a little simpler and shorter and stuff to make it a little bit easier to understand. To give them credit, I think they spent a little more effort on trying to explain things than Gary Gygax did.
Yeah, and of course they had what 10 years under their belt of
Yeah.
going to conventions, fielding questions, and they had a lot of those guys on that team,
Mhm.
and they had all the Sage advice stuff to go by, and that's when TSR was still sort of had it together regardless of upper management issues.
Sure. Let's see what else. I mentioned that I put that link in there in the for Dragon's Foot. Anybody that's interested in running first edition Dungeons and Dragons, anybody should go to Dragon's Foot. Let me see if I can. Where could I do it? Pull up another browser and share that out real quick. Where did it go? Can I open up another example here? I'll pull it out as a page. All right, StreamYard Studio, present or invite. Share a screen. Share screen. I will show the window. Bam.
Beautiful website.
It's a little older.
Yeah. It's got lots of good stuff there, and the
It's got a lot of
forums
excellent
especially.
stuff in here, right? So
Yeah,
for old, and then as I understand it, reading back through some of the stuff here years ago, Gary Gygax did come in and talk to users and answer questions and stuff.
yeah, and I think they link to that somewhere in here. And there's also a version that you can find download. He went by Colonel Plato, and you can find a whole archive of that information, as in just a PDF form, and it's a really interesting read. He tended to separate himself from a lot of the AD&D stuff and lean into more simple approaches with this, because of course he got bombarded with with rules questions about weapon versus armor type, speed factors, space required, what things meant, and I think at that point he was just like, you know
Yep.
but he was always a nice guy about it.
All right, I know it's a DM spreadsheet and stuff like this.
Yeah,
Here it is. There's Attic right there. Okay. But there's all sorts of other things on here that are very useful for game masters and players and stuff like that alike, like the Goldenrod character sheet we talked about. You can get
right.
that off of here and stuff as well if you wanted to roll old school games. Yep.
Yeah,
Yes. Yep. Yeah, Bob Jester, come join us in and poke fun at us again for a little while. Yeah, Dragon's Fruit. It's an excellent resource. I just scrolled through a whole bunch of tools and stuff to get down to where the ADDICT document was. Lots of stuff in here to help players and game masters, especially game masters running games and stuff, keeping track of things. The
yeah,
um, Dungeon Master's screen did not have some of the stuff on it that you would have liked. I mean, your hit charts and the tables and stuff like that were great to have handy, but a good reference summary of some of these things that we talked about over the last couple of weeks would have been great to have handy. A little table with a bunch of modifiers and stuff handy to refer to.
right.
Let's see. Let me show that on there. Dragonfoot had nearly everyone from TSR: Gary, Jim Ward, Tim Cass, Frank Metzer, and others. Sure, all come in here interacting. What a better place to go than a place where there's fans of your game. Yeah. Awesome. Well, we went through a whole lot of this real quick. Didn't see a whole lot of questions about it on here. other than chastising us for our technical difficulties earlier on. Hey, anytime you go back and look at this again, we'll be showing it again on Doomswords uh, channel, and we'll have discussion. We'll answer questions and stuff. Anybody can anything in the meantime. We love this game. We're more than happy to talk about it. You can't shut us up about it.
Yeah. That should probably be obvious.
Yeah. Um, and sooner or later here, I guess we need to figure out what kind of next thing we may want to talk about. I don't know if we have to announce that this week or whatever, but the next time that you and I will get together, we'll do another aspect of first edition Dungeons and Dragons. Go into something, another part of it that seemed to be a little sticky for players and dungeon masters alike, and
Sure.
work through it again. We'll figure something out. I mean, yeah. I was in pieces of it. Oh, have you got that Blue Bard link handy or something that you can present? We'll throw that up
Yeah.
there too, because that was an excellent resource as well. And he
Yeah.
again,
Which one?
just his basic website so that we can
Oh, right.
send people to it.
Yeah. There's a lot of good stuff in there. Unfortunately, when he so what without getting into it too much, but here I'll post the link in here, and then you should be able, no, I can't post the link. I'll
Yep.
drop it in at any rate, it's just www.thebluebard.com, but I'll yeah. Yeah, the website was going to get shut down, and he didn't want to continue to pay additional money for it. So he was just like, I'm just going to shut it down. I've got all the documents. And then somebody went through and archived all of his stuff into a single PDF. But then the website came back
there we go.
because he found cheaper hosting. But now it has a blue background on it, and it can be kind of hard to read some of this stuff. Yeah, up in the top, you'll find his playables and the blog. And the playables are things that he releases for free. So you've got an excellent GM screen in there, for example. Excel-based character sheets. But he has a very interesting take on the game, and he presents it in a way that maintains a lot of fidelity to if nothing else, the spirit of the game, and it's easy to understand. And I like this guy a lot.
Yeah. He not a 100% purist like we went through with the ADDICT document. He does make some adjustments that he thinks make logical sense with how he
Right.
runs things, but he does still hold fairly close to the original feel of the way it was supposed to run.
Yeah.
Another excellent resource for just going in and taking a look and see how things work if you're curious at all.
Exactly.
My preference is you keep coming back to us two to watch all this stuff to learn. But
Yeah, exactly. Well, and then we can talk about it, and it's a video
Sure.
archive, and it'll last forever, even if these guys shut down their websites. You know what I mean? Until I get kicked off of YouTube or whatever.
Or one or the other of us, maybe eventually that's going to happen. Who knows? Because
Right.
First edition Dungeons and Dragons is offensive now, or something like that.
Yeah. And I enjoy hanging out. I enjoy the chats and all that. I enjoy the instant premiere replays over on my channel. It's all good stuff.
Cool, awesome. Well, this is great. Well, next time you and I will get together on your instant replay, we'll figure when that's going to be. I guess we can talk about that offline when you plan on getting that stuff set up and running. But then we'll work offline on what we're going to talk about next time. Now, who is the Blue Bard? He's asking who is the Blue Bard. So let me go ahead and real quick go to the about.
Yeah.
Did he put his name in here? Just about who he is. I'm born.
Yeah, this is a good set of links right here. If you really want to get into specifically the AD&D stuff, yeah, that's where you'll find that.
I think he's got a little collection going.
Yeah.
The Blue
Yeah, he publishes
blog,
stuff
his
up.
products, game design portfolio. I don't think it really ever says what his name is, does it? Not that I'm
It
aware of.
may be just on his published stuff because he also has a products page, and he's been putting some stuff on Gumroad, which is a little bit like Itch and Lulu. So the blog kind of took a little bit of a backseat, and he's been publishing old school inspired adventures.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Anthony Huso. There we go. Yeah, there's the guy's name. You know it. Yeah.
Right.
Thought that map was familiar. Castle of Silver Prince. Okay. I love maps. I'm gonna have to go make a copy of this and add it to my collection of maps. Love maps. And talk about that when I talk about my Judges Guild stuff on my Game Aids video. Yeah. Awesome. All right. Let's go ahead and cut this short here since we've been running for quite some time, and I'm sure you got to go feed some children or something. So
Do something. We'll settle with the children because that's the nice way to say it. Yeah, well, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on, and thanks everybody for joining. We'll catch you next time.
Yeah, again, this was awesome. Again, appreciate it. Thank you for joining me here, Doomswords, and we will
My pleasure.
catch you on the next one.
Yes, sir.
All righty, let me go to just me. Here we go. Thanks again for joining me here on the Great Older Ones channel, and joining with Doomswords as well for all the stuff that we had talked about and covered. We're going to do some more. We haven't decided yet what the next topic is, but it'll be more first edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. And again, we're going to try to do some of the stuff that people were stuck on, things like psionics and spells and advancing magic, for example, stuff like that. So again, thanks for joining me here on the Great Old Ones channel. If you enjoyed this content, please like and subscribe. Post some questions, post some comments. More than happy to go through all of that stuff. And thanks again for joining me all, and we will see you again next time.